rested, and I'm looking forward to a good week with you guys. So I'm just here in this park. The sun's out, which is a rare occasion. This is the first time I felt the sun. I'm so happy in such a long time. So it's so good to not see clouds. But so what I was really thinking about today, distractions. They're everywhere. But once you're aware of them, you can actually avoid them. So what I view as a distraction is ultimately absolutely anything that distracts you from, your full potential, from finding out who you are, that promotes any kind of false image about who you are. That for me is what a distraction is, just anything that distracts you from the real you, if that makes sense. So believe it or not, when you look at the world, we're surrounded by it. It's like everything is set up, like television, media, even just the social expectations, everything is set up to kind of really distract you from who you are as a person, if that makes sense. So I don't know if, what I'm going to start with is, if you saw my self-love videos. I did a video, one of the first videos I did was on self-love, and I said, the more you love yourself for who you really are, the more you become your pure self, and your pure self is literally just love. Melanated people, our natural states is love, and that's who we actually are. So from the moment we go into education or anything from the moment we go into education, it's like they start it's like the programming, making you think that you're not amazing, distracting you from who you are, not teaching you the correct history, making you believe that your ancestors were only all that stuff were only slaves, and that it's basically anything that just teaching you lies. Because if they were to teach you the truth, what you will understand is that you are literally capable of anything. Once you reach yourself, once you know yourself, once you really know who you are, once you know your history, once you know our roots, then you kind of understand that we are meant to be connected with the universe. We're meant to be doing certain things that's going to help uplift the universe and uplift others. That's our natural space. Once we get into that space, that's what you naturally will be doing in some way or another. It could be through art, it could be through music, it can be through cooking. There's so many skills that we've actually all got that we don't have access to because it's been kind of blocked through false education, through being falsely educated, basically being fed lies, if that makes sense. So you've got that pure self, and then you've got the illusional self, the self that has been created by this whole system, if that makes sense. So when I grew up and started seeing what was going on, I just made that decision. It was I'm going to remove those layers, all those things that have been put on me, that has been taught to me. I'm gonna just get rid of them all and to start again and just learn my truth, because at the end of the day, it has all been lies. So it's about removing the layers of that false self to get to your pure self, which is love. So with distractions, so from school, you're distracted just by literally diverting you from knowing, your ancestral rituals. There's loads of things that we used to do, knowing what we're capable of doing, the parts of our brain that we can access. They're basically restricting us from accessing them by giving us false knowledge. If we were given the correct knowledge, certain things will be accessed in the brain that will open up so much more potential, and that's what's happening now. Basically, that's what's happening in education. And then obviously outside of education, so we all know, as melanated people, we're meant to be outside, we're meant to be in the sun, and the way work and school is set up is that you spend the hottest time of the day in a building and in a square with no light. You haven't got the sun. So that's another ploy, really, to just get you away from where we're supposed to be. Because when you were in the sun, believe it or not, the melanin in our skin is really directly connected. So I can actually feel it reacting right now. So when we're sitting in the sun, we're actually activating a lot more cells. A lot is going on in our bodies. It's energy being directly absorbed by our skin. That's why, when you've been in the sun, you feel more awake, you feel more alive. That's basically why. So the sun is so important for us melanin, for people with melanin, and in those daylight hours where we're at work looking at a screen, little things like that. So another distraction, TV. So not only are you inside, like literally watching stuff, and you're away from the sun, you're like playing PlayStation or watching TV. All these, if you notice, you will not really come across a show that's all like just peace, that creates real peace in your heart. Every show has got drama of some kind. It's violence, family drama, shouting, some kind of pain, some kind of heartache going on. There's always something in the movie that will move your emotions, that will make you feel slightly uncomfortable or something like that. There's always something in those movies. So why are we addicted to something that makes us uncomfortable? It's because it's been made part of society. It's been made normalized. And then when you have been brought up, with TV screens all around you, it's all you know. So you don't know any better. You just kind of just accept it, watch it, and then slowly you start getting used to it. And that's when you know that you have basically been programmed, like to be as. And when you start getting used to certain things, you do notice it changes your behavior. So when you've got your children or whatever playing all these violent video games, and they go to school and start punching people and stuff like that, it's because that's what they see and that's what they deem as normal. It's a programming. That's part of it. That's why all these games are so violent. It's so rare to find a normal, peaceful game where it's not like a competition, where you're competing against someone, which in itself is also going against who we are. I'll come back to that. But yeah, so fighting, sex, everything that's on the TV, it's just like sex is no longer sacred because it's just everywhere now. It's so accessible too, and that's usually a very sacred act. And now it's just like whatever. It's just kind of like seen as like going to a shop nowadays. It's ridiculous. It's really disgusting. Sorry guys, but it's true. We need to start really thinking about all this. Like, why is sex so publicly shown to us when it is? I understand it's a natural thing, but the way they portray it, it's a very demeaning, and it's just seen as like kind of worthless, when actually it's something that creates life. It's an act that creates life, and it should be treated as such, not just like a meaningless fun act, So yeah, so that's another thing. And what was I gonna talk about? Oh yeah, so like competition. Like, people say that naturally we're meant to be very competitive beings. I've got to say, I disagree. I really flipping disagree with that statement, because you don't see a baby coming out and grabbing stuff and like trying to snatch things away from the mother, or they're pretty calm beings. They're just really just looking around in wonder. You don't see them looking around like with, oh, I could have that, oh, I could have that. They're very calm beings. And so I feel like the moment they go to school, where it's like the games they play, tag, stuck in the mud, it's all competitive sport. You start playing football, and it's always about competing against someone. And what happens to the whole... So when you're like, the issue with this is like, you grow up looking more at someone else's moves than yours. That's what you do on the field. You're kind of like looking more at what someone else is doing to kind of start, and then you move around that. I don't know if that makes sense. So if you're growing up thinking that competition, you're meant to be competitive and you're meant to be competing against your peers and all that stuff, like, how do you know that you're not competing for their dream that's not necessarily for you anyway? Like, it goes so deep. But so that's another thing. That is another thing. And just the media itself, I don't even want to start thinking about, like, how we're portrayed, how the media like teaches us we're supposed to look, how we're supposed to feel, how we're supposed to like. And when you're like trying to compare yourself to an image that's literally been photoshopped, you'll never be happy. You'll never be happy. It triggers something that will make you hungry to want it. That's what the images do. It's like all psychology. That's how they run. It's on psychology. They know how you react to certain images, to colours, to certain moods, to certain even voices, even the way sentences are structured. Like, I did sales and marketing training and all that stuff, and honestly it is all about trying to trick them into thinking, that's what they just tell you, trick them into thinking that it's them that have made the decision, when actually it's not. It's not them. You are feeding that information into them. You're making them think that they want it, when actually they don't need it. They will do absolutely fine without it. But by the time you leave the door, you've left them thinking they need it. That's how the world is set up. So everything that we think we need. So let's just say we say we need these shoes, these nice clothes and stuff. It's because that's what we see on the media. That's literally what we're seeing in the media. Like, we're told that we want it. From school, we're told that we need a certain kind of job, when actually maybe that's not what you need specifically. So everything that we see is literally just, it's a platform of distraction. So we really need to be careful. It's like, what am I watching? What am I listening to? Is the music very, very, is the music negative or positive? Is it actually feeding me with positivity, or is it making me stressed, anxious? So it's about, like, being in touch with your emotions.